If you're a fan of jumping around in the snow and ripping people out of Zimas, then you better get onto Vikendi quick smart because it's going. Uppercut, uppercut, sonic boom! You've probably seen this on the social media pipes for PUBG Mobile. This is the announcement for Karakin, which is coming on the 7th of April. Great stuff. I loved the map, loved the beta, played it a fair bit, and really think it's going to be a map that everyone enjoys. What you probably haven't seen or don't know about is that Karakin will be replacing Vikendi. Good old Vikendi, the snow map, the frozen tundra that was so much a part of update 1.0. And I can understand why this is happening. And I actually went back and looked at some old footage of Vikendi as well. Have a look at this. This is literally the first time I dropped Vikendi, and it was in the new update. And look at my pants. I got no pants on. Anyway, and what I realized was Vikendi has always had its own identity, but it's not an identity that the player base has overall embraced. And as people have got better and better, Vikendi has become less and less part of PUBG Mobile as a gaming experience. Now, one of the reasons I can say this is because I went and tried to get footage from Vikendi, and it was just timing out. The queues were just timing out. And this is playing TPP solos. Miramar, straight in. Erangel, straight in. Sanhok, in fairly quickly. Livik, straight in. Vikendi, timing out. And that tells you pretty much all you need to know as to why Vikendi is going to get the arse. Now, I would also like to point out that Vikendi has always been a map that featured an awful lot of cover and a couple of unique guns. Those guns are, as you can see on screen, coming to Karakin. That is the MP5K and the G36C. I mean, there's no point developing these weapons and then not keeping them in game just because you flush the map. But Vikendi always featured a lot of cover, and it was a map that, for better or worse, I really came to detest, especially as a caster. Vikendi is a map where you get a lot of compounds. They had a lot of compounds originally, and then you have all this cover from pine forests and trees and rocks. And the topography itself is very, very hilly. Like, there's a lot of ups and downs in Vikendi, Mount Krispy Kreme notwithstanding. But on top of that, like, this is a final circle nearly situation. There's 5 people left alive, and there's 7 full-blown compounds inside that blue line. I mean, 7. There's more than enough for a compound and a half each. And that's not even including how, when they made Vikendi 2.0, they put in more of this brown grass so people could snake, and they seem to increase the size of the forest. Like, there's just more trees. Now, they actually did Vikendi 2.0, and I loved it at the time because it was beautiful. It looked beautiful. It made the game more immersive. But what it didn't do was give you lines of sight. Here's what I mean by that. This is Karakin. There's a lot of rocks and gullies and hills. It's Miramar, but Miramar is more of like a barren Greek hillside than anything else. And yet look at the lines of sight. If someone rotates, you can see that happening. If someone starts making a move from one compound to a next, you can plan for that and you can try and negate that. Vikendi doesn't let you do that seamlessly, especially in solos. What you end up with on Vikendi, and I can tell you as a caster, is a hot drop that is a lot of fun. You can go and drop Villa or Winery or even Aruba, Goroka, Uwaiwana, Tokyo. But what you can't do is then move that into a very straightforward mid-map progression. The middle of the game in Vikendi is just boring as it gets. And especially as a caster, I have... What happens in scrims is people tend to stay alive longer. They don't take stupid engagements and they get through to the final circles, and then it gets really, really hectic. Well, Vikendi can be like that in classics because a lot of people will just land the edges and trash loot around and then find a compound in the middle of the map and hold that compound. And when you hold the compound, you're gaining points and you're ranking up. And you think that a lot of people who get sweaty would enjoy that, but what you actually find is they just don't play it. A lot of people that get sweaty will go and play other maps where people move as well, because there's no good holding a compound if no one comes to it. You can't farm kills in a compound that no one comes to. Like, you can't just go to the center plains of Gatka and sit on the building and wait for people to rotate through, or the squad house outside of George Pole. Look at me. I try and come through. There's a guy in this compound here. There's a guy to the left of this compound here behind the hill. And there's a guy in the compound down the hill. And I'm out. Because I made the mistake of moving. And this guy then makes the mistake of moving. And the guy who's been sitting in this compound the whole time leans out the window and says, "Hi, how you doing? Having fun yet?" Now, that's fine. That's how the game is played. It's played as a survival game. And if you don't like that, you don't play the map. Well, guess what? I don't play the map. And apparently, neither does a large proportion of the player base. Because as much as people do play that way in solos on Miramar, like, you can drive around Miramar, pull up to Picardo Arena and there'll be a guy there, or Hacienda del Patron and there'll be a guy there, or overlook San Martin and there'll be someone on the roof of the 5-stack. But they're there because there is genuinely a good chance of getting an advantage on someone and having a gunfight and winning it. On Vikendi, that isn't the case. There's so many occasions where absolutely nothing happens. It's a great map for people that use good gaming chairs because they get to rotate perfectly from compound to compound and just take out people. But it's not great for people who want more fluidity in their gameplay, who want a constant stream of action. That's not what Vikendi offers. Now, of course, there are exceptions to the rule. You can have games where that's not the case. But whatever that might be as an idea, it's not happening now. And because of that, it's getting replaced by Karakin. Let's talk a little bit more about Karakin, because I did spend a fair bit of time there in the beta. Karakin is a lot better of a proposition for PUBG Mobile than Vikendi. Karakin is the fast-paced Final Circles version of Miramar. And we all know that Miramar is hugely successful. Like, I love it. It's my favorite map. It's the favorite map of a lot of people. And Karakin is like Miramar, but you just start the circles halfway through. And it's, you start with 65 people in a map about a third of the size, and it gets hectic, and it gets hectic very, very quickly. You don't have as much time to gather resources. So it's not that there's not loot there. It's just that you get your gear and you start prepping for your rotations. There's enough classic maps in the game already. And I think that's where Vikendi really falls down, because Vikendi's not competing against Karakin. It's not really competing against Livik. It's competing against Erangel and Miramar. And those are full-sized classic maps with Sanhok as like a kind of tweener. And they draw a lot of the joy from the players who roll PUBG Mobile. Not the least of all because Erangel has events on. And then you get to Vikendi and it's a huge big map that can sometimes be frustratingly slow to play. And so you just don't go back there. And you go and play your classic matches on Miramar or Erangel, where it's a lot easier to find action and it's a lot easier to get things done. And, if you don't have a bloody car on Vikendi, it's such a pain in the ass. It is on Miramar as well, but at least you can see people rotating when you're doing that. God, I won't miss the Zima blowing up, like from being slightly dented. That is one thing I will not miss. I will be sad to see Vikendi go. I'm not going to lie, I don't play it much, but every once in a while I'll kick along there and do the business. I won't be sad to see Karakin take its place though, because Karakin, I think, is going to be a whole lot more fun and a whole lot more engaging. I don't love Livik. I find Livik to be too sweaty. People will hold angles on Livik all day, but Karakin is way more my style. Clear sight lines, a very, very well-defined style of play, and no grass, so no snakes. Unlike Vikendi, Sanhok, Erangel. Miramar has grass, but it's like so rare. Anyway, Vikendi's gone. Long live Vikendi. It will reign in our memories forever. No, we'll forget about it pretty quick. I'm Bushka. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's going to make some of you sad, but I'm not particularly upset about it. Until next time, look after yourselves and stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.